What stayed the same? What changed? Between 1754 and 1800, British attempts to assert tighter control over the American colonies set the stage for revolution. After the Seven Years' War, also known as the French and Indian War, Britain faced significant war debt. To pay for these costs, Britain imposed new taxes on the colonies, like the Stamp Act and the Tea Act. These taxes, meant to raise revenue, angered colonists, who had no representation in the British Parliament. The colonies, which had grown accustomed to self-government, viewed these acts as an overreach. Colonial leaders organized boycotts of British goods and formed the Stamp Act Congress, a key early step in unified resistance against British policies. This movement escalated when Britain responded by enforcing the Quartering Act, which required colonists to house British soldiers, further deepening the divide. In 1774, the Intolerable Acts, aimed at punishing Massachusetts for the Boston Tea Party, closed the port of Boston and gave Britain greater control over the colony, which only galvanized other colonies to rally around Massachusetts' cause. The desire for independence grew as British actions restricted colonial freedom. Frustration turned to defiance as British leaders insisted on control. Protests led to armed resistance, and the Revolutionary War started in 1775, marked by the battles of Lexington and Concord. Colonists, inspired by ideals of democracy and republicanism, began to see themselves as separate from Britain. Leaders like Thomas Jefferson and James Madison argued for the creation of new governments grounded in self-rule and the protection of individual liberties. These ideas were influenced by Enlightenment thinkers such as John Locke, who argued for natural rights, life, liberty, and property, and Montesquieu, who advocated for the separation of powers in government. The Declaration of Independence, issued in 1776, formally severed ties with Britain and declared the colony's intent to form a new independent nation. As the war raged on, it caused deep divisions within American society. Many Americans, known as Loyalists, remained loyal to Britain. They faced harsh treatment, including imprisonment, the confiscation of property, and exile, both during and after the war. Some were forced to flee, especially when the war shifted towards more intense fighting. At the same time, Native American tribes played a significant role in the Revolution. Many tribes, such as the Iroquois Confederacy, sided with the British in hopes of curbing colonial expansion into their territories. The outcome of the war left Native American nations vulnerable as the new U.S. government sought to expand westward. Despite their involvement, Native Americans were largely left out of the post-war settlements, facing mounting pressure from settlers eager to claim land. During the war, the concept of self-government and democratic principles began to shape new political institutions. After the war, American leaders worked to create a system of government that would reflect the revolutionary ideals. The Articles of Confederation, finally formally adopted in 1781, established a weak national government, which led to problems with trade, military defense, and taxation. These issues highlighted the need for stronger central control. Shays' Rebellion in 1786 exposed the weaknesses of the Articles and the inability of the central government to maintain order. This unrest was a turning point, leading to the Constitutional Convention in 1787, where leaders crafted a new system of government. The U.S. Constitution was drafted, establishing a federal system with a strong national government, but one with clear limits on its power. The Constitution also introduced the concept of checks and balances, separating power between the executive, legislative, and judicial branches to prevent any one branch from becoming too powerful. Despite these strides, the debate over how much power the central government should have remained heated, with some fearing the return of monarchical power. The ratification of the Bill of Rights in 1791, which ensured the protection of individual freedoms, such as the freedom of speech, religion, and the right to a fair trial, marked a crucial victory for those who feared the potential for governmental overreach. However, these new political structures didn't resolve the country's internal contradictions, especially the issue of slavery. Though the revolution was fought in the name of freedom and liberty, the institution of slavery was left largely intact in the South. Enslaved Africans fought on both sides, hoping for freedom, yet the practice continued and would later lead to major internal conflict. The question of whether slavery would expand into new territories became a major issue, especially after the Louisiana Purchase of 1803. The revolution and the creation of the new U.S. government also impacted the rest of the world. French citizens, inspired by the ideals of the American Revolution, launched the French Revolution in 1789. In Latin America, independence movements were catalyzed by the example set by the United States. Leaders like Simón Bolívar used the American Revolution as a model in their own struggles for independence from European colonial powers. However, despite the American Revolution's success in breaking free from Britain, the new nation faced challenges. For instance, the United States had to navigate complex international relations, particularly with Britain, Spain, and France. Britain's presence in the Great Lakes and Spain's control over the Mississippi River required the young nation to defend its borders and secure neutral trading rights. The U.S. government struggled to balance its need for military strength with its commitment to not become overly centralized or imperialistic. The Jay Treaty of 1794 with Britain helped avoid war and secured trade agreements. Tensions remained over British interference in American affairs. Meanwhile, westward expansion posed its own set of challenges. The Northwest Ordinance of 1787 opened up new territories, and settlers poured into these areas. This led to competition for resources and land with both Native Americans and European powers still present in North America. The question of whether new states would permit slavery or not intensified these conflicts, setting the stage for future battles over the practice and fueling sectional tensions. As settlers moved westward, they clashed with Native Americans over land, leading to further violence and displacement. As the new nation grew, political parties began to emerge, reflecting the ongoing disagreements over the role of government. The Federalists, led by Alexander Hamilton, advocated for a strong central government, while the Democratic Republicans, led by Thomas Jefferson, pushed for greater state autonomy. This ideological divide created the foundation for future political battles and shaped the nation's political culture. What changed and what continued before and after the Revolution? Between 1754 and 1800, British attempts to assert tighter control over the American colonies set the stage for revolution. British policies, such as the taxes following the Seven Years' War, infringed upon the colonies' self-government, causing deep resentment. This led to a desire for independence and the formation of a new nation founded on democratic ideals. The revolution not only shaped the future of the United States, but also inspired similar movements around the world, even as unresolved issues like slavery and the struggle for westward expansion continued to challenge the new nation. The fight for liberty and equality was far from over, but the revolution's legacy set the stage for the growth of democracy worldwide.